I was a weird little kid. Any others out there who are weird little kids? Please raise your hand proudly. I am here for you. As a little girl, I had a sort of knowing that isn't taught. It just is. I sensed things others can overlook, energies, emotions, hidden truths. And when no one reflects that same knowing back to you, it's easy to second guess yourself. It's like speaking a language no one else around you seems to understand. So, in many ways, I grew fluent in two worlds, one seen and the other unseen. It felt both confusing and strangely powerful. So I began to believe I was powerfully ugly and confusing. I didn't just think it, I felt it. I fully believed everyone was pretending not to notice how hard it was to look at me. Until the summer I turned 10 and moved back into my mother's home. I had been living states away with my grandparents as her health continually declined. And at this point, she was fully confined to her wheelchair. Being back with my mom after 5 years gone, after being taken by well-meaning family from her, and being without the deep self-recognition our connection could create within me, I had built a defense mechanism of believing I was abhorrent. And then one day, after just a few weeks back in her tiny apartment, with my world having just turned upside down once again, I walked by a mirror in the room that was both her bedroom and our living room, and I saw that I was not something that was ugly. It was shocking, like getting plugged back into the electrical socket that is me. It was my first glimpse into what I eventually began calling an internal experience of awe. Yes, I understood profound things that I did not have words for back then, but I have them now. Here it is. I am someone who deeply feels into the knowing that our human systems are miraculous beyond what many have ever imagined to learn to be considered. In fact, I can see that simply by being alive. Each and every one of us are awe-inspiring. And I'm here to talk about exactly that, the word and experience of awe. Its original meaning, what it evolved to mean now in the modern world, and my belief about a cultural shift that is possible by embodying a fuller, new understanding of awe at this point in human history. If we're willing to step into the knowing that I began knowing as a little kid. Our modern day word awe stems from many ancient traditions and cultures, but for certain is closely related to the ancient Norse word age. And did you know its only meaning originally and for a very long time was terror, dread, and fright? There was some divine fear and also overwhelm due to a sense of smallness as a part of the vastness of it all thrown in to lighten it up slightly. But mostly, it was just terror and dread. This original definition is the foundation of many modern words as well, as in realizing one day that my mother's illness was progressing and that she would never walk again was awful. Awe's meaning slowly, like many important concepts, continued to evolve over time and is now defined as a profound feeling of reverence, admiration, but still some overwhelm or fear is possible, often in response to something vast, powerful, or beyond ordinary understanding. This feeling is usually thought about as something inspired by nature or art, great achievements, large experiences, spiritual and otherwise, or overwhelming beauty. So awe's meaning is now a mixture of many different things that are possible to experience in our lives. As in, when I look back at what my mother accomplished while she endured becoming wheelchair bound due to multiple sclerosis, I am in awe. I have over the years learned a deep understanding of a possible new meaning, a further evolving definition of the word that helps me describe what I felt in my bones. First, as a child from a family that struggled mightily with awesomely complex illness, and then further developed into knowing because of spending many years as someone who decided 25 years ago to study and practice acupuncture and Chinese medicine. In my practice, talk about awe-inspiring. I cared for many hundreds of humans, and I got to see over and over again the awesome power of the body and the mind, especially when it's cared for by an old, highly considerate medicine that carefully honors each human. Many ancient medicines know we are miracles. We're not something to be fixed at. We are something to be cared for. And we also get to have the entire human experience that engenders awe of the whole. My evolving definition of awe is this: awe begins on the inside of us with a conscious realization of reverence, admiration, veneration, wonderment, and astonishment of our own internal miraculous selves. Awe as not only something outside of ourselves, but as what we already are. Awe from the inside out. I believe it is important that we learn to realize awe as an internal experience first, because this creates an understanding of our own inherent worthiness. By seeing the miraculousness of ourselves, we can realize that awe isn't only something that we look to notice outside of ourselves to experience, the rare, beautiful blood moon or the inland hurricane that changes mountains. Awe begins with an awareness of our own incredible bodies, the complexity, the intelligence, the wisdom of our inner working selves. The noticing of both, wow, the universe is huge, because we first recognize the equally deep truth of, wow, I actually am a universe. This internal awe is quite radical. It is a reclaiming of the human experience as way beyond and deeper than the painfully disconnected modern thought process of about the body as a machine or something transactional. That we are only valuable if we achieve noticeable completion of accomplishments. Inner awe plugs us back into the truth. Our inner intelligence, there from our earliest childhoods, deeply knows that our worth is not earned, but here to be embodied. I am here to help spread the word of this third iteration of awe, an evolving definition, because as wordless as fully experienced awe is, words do matter. They are what give us the ideas that we live out. Back to that summer I turned 10 and moved from my grandparents' home to my mother's after so many years gone. One night, we were sitting out front. I had just learned how to tip her chair back and lower her down the small step to be on our front porch so that we could catch some cool air. There was an old record player on the porch, and we were listening to the classical piece, Pachelbel's Canon in D major, a song that is highly emotional if you are moved by such things, and I was learning that my mother was. I remember that she closed her eyes to take in the layers of the piece as it builds and builds to its mountainous heights, with more and more instruments coming forth and inviting you to be deeply moved. As the piece was rising to its apex, a neighbor walked to the bottom step of the porch and started talking to my mother. And to my horror and fascination, she never opened her eyes or acknowledged him. She was so fully in the internal experience that she appeared not to hear them. It was as if she had moved to a place that no words can touch. I'm sure most of you can imagine my 10-year-old self's embarrassment. And for years, if I thought of it, I thought that. This was compounded by the fact that when I asked my mom about it later that night, she said, sure, I heard them, but I was also listening to something fully miraculous. Yeah, in other words, my mom could vibe with herself. I realized years and years later how much struggle she had already gone through by this point. I have never met another who was more willing to honor her body through trying to care for herself. And she taught me to do so as well, telling me compelling stories about how incredible the human system is. What I got to witness that summer night on the porch opened my mind. I learned from a great clarity that my mother had built inside of herself that too few of us ever know how to claim. She knew how to stay within herself and simply would not be interrupted while having a precious, joyful, resonating internal experience. Eventually, when I was a teenager, I was often a big part of my mom's care. Taking care of my mother was very difficult. And through it, I began to learn that the body is not just a vehicle. It is a teacher. It is not just a container. It's a cathedral. The body isn't even yours. It's the you that transcends being owned. I mean, we are incredible. Our hearts beat 100,000 times a day. Our brains contain 86 billion neurons, a wildly vast internal galaxy. We are complex, not even begun to be fully understood expressions of hormones and bacteria. We are immune responses and continuous cell rejuvenation, all happening unconsciously, all revealing a wisdom that is simply mind-blowing. Literally, a scattering of those 86 billion neurons, but somehow miraculously containing them inside our complex skeletal structure. And your digestion, don't get me started. It's both a ridiculously complex and elegant process, like a biochemical symphony. And it is responsible for how you literally make more of you. Why would we ever deny our alchemical miraculousness when we eat food and then use it to make more of ourselves? Truly, what would it feel like to experience your body not as an object to manage or judge, but as a sacred place? Here are 3 more questions to ask yourself to grow this understanding of awe from the inside out. 1, what has my body carried me through that I've never fully thanked it for? 2, what part of my body do I usually take for granted that is actually a full-on miracle of design, endurance, and grace? And 3, where in my body do I feel awe about who I am right now? Even the tiniest flicker. By the time I was 20, my mom descended into no longer being able to move. And finally, her stiff body grew bed sores that began infecting her blood. I can still see how by this part, her eyes were the only thing that she could shift. It was here that I learned new depths of awe about how much terror, dread, admiration, wonder, and miraculousness we can experience in this humaning. And her becoming unable to move incredibly helped me learn to fly. Something I began to understand later as coming from a deepening knowing that I could walk this world in such a way that honors my mom, in a way of offering that we are not just self-improvement projects, always requiring things outside of ourselves. Work towards eventual perfection, even if our bodies are struggling. Growing this knowing over time, I learned a deep sense of awe that kept expanding through my study of our bodies and then further deepened because of the people who trusted me for care and guidance. I continue to learn that we humans, me, you, are on a ride through very rough terrain for only an eye blink's amount of time. And there's great wisdom behind those eyelids. There is electricity in your spine and an entire galaxy in your gut. Let awe begin here with that. Not only in the breathtaking mountaintop watching dramatic storms coming in or sunsets, but in the quiet pulsing of being you, opening ourselves to this expanded understanding of awe helps us look at one another through wizened eyes that can actually see the truth from the inside out, just how awesome we and it all, ever changing and evolving, truly is. Join me back on that front porch, please. Let's have an experience together.